Hi everybody, I want to build off of what we talked about with just the basics of color, where we looked at RGB mode, we looked at CMYK mode, we looked at Pantone colors, so ways that we can use color as a designer to help one, be in the environment we're in, think about who's seeing what, and think about how it can add meaning to our particular direction that we're going in our solution. The second part, or the next part of this, is color harmony, and looking at how we choose colors that help work towards the message that we're sending. All right, so color harmony, this is a handout I gave you with some terminology. It's got a big color wheel at the top. It's just based off of a designer, an artist that uses. Part of the reason I choose this color wheel is we can look at complementary colors. This isn't the same one, but it's kind of similar in the way that there's more than just 3 or 4, 6 colors, 9 colors. There's more of that. And it also helps us look at how we could make these colors out of cyan, magenta, and yellow. So if we know that we're going to be used in print, how could we actually make those colors? So if you want to get that sheet out, just a big color wheel, we'll kind of break it down and look at some of the ways that we make choices about color. All right. So the first one that we look at is achromatic, and chroma is just a term for color. A would, in this case, A is without. So without a color, it's black or white. There's no transitions, there's no grays. It's just one or the other, right? So it's achromatic, without a hue. And that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is if we think about color temperature. And if you look at what's on the sheet that I gave you, you can see warm and cool colors, just one way of dividing it up. Thinking about using warm colors, what kind of message does that send versus using cool colors? And the thing to think about is everything is relative about what it is. But an easy way of just cutting it into half and dividing the color wheel that way. So using colors warm or cool. You could also use colors that are all yellow or greens or blues or reds. So dividing your color wheel that way is another way of thinking about it, right? And what we can do with that is we can take the same exact composition but change the meaning of it by changing the color. So if you look at these two, the seasons change, or they should. And remember that color is subjective, but the seasons change depending on what color we have. So if we're using more warm colors, that's going to send a different message than just using cool colors, right? So same exact composition, just changing the color, right? Another way that we can look at dividing our color wheel, or looking and thinking about how we use color, is monochromatic. Mono means one, right? So if we use then tints and shades. Tints and shades help us with using monochromatic, one color, monochromatic, right? We'll look at some examples as we go along. So that's just one. Analogous colors are next to one another. They are neighbors, and on the color wheel. So if you look at yours, if you think about, for example, leaf green, number 12 there, its analogous colors would be sea green and lime, right? So we're using kind of colors that are related. They're next to one another. Okay, so here is that monochromatic. If we look at just the color blue and we look at tints and shades of those particular colors. And you'll see this series, I've came across, maybe this remembers or reminds you of something as a younger kid. That's up to you. Just some of them are kind of funny, but how they used color, knowing your audience, if these characters are for younger children, they're going to pay attention to color as well, right? So monochromatic colors. But this can be used in design, so using colors that are similar. And an easy way that designers use this is just through grayscale, right? So we're choosing the tints and shades of white and black, right? And so we create monochromatic, just an easy way of thinking about it that way, creating depth from there. Analogous colors are next to one another on the color wheel, and how those tell, and they're related. They're sharing colors that are similar. Again, here's how that's used in Fraggle Rock for kids. Colors that are related, analogous colors. And this is used in a lot of different techniques, a lot of different approaches. It can be for a particular audience. It can be a particular time of year, conceptually or concept-based. We use color that is related. So analogous can be a really helpful approach in your design. Next one to look at is related to complementary colors, which are opposite on the color wheel. In our color wheel, they are 10 apart, just an easy way of looking at it. And if you look at, for example, if you look at emerald, number 14, and scarlet, number 4, they are opposite, and together they complete the cyan, magenta, and yellow combination. So there are 100% magenta from scarlet, there is 100% cyan from emerald, and then 50% yellow and 50% yellow for both. So together, those two colors create all complete primary colors. So complementary can work in a really nice way because it contains all the colors that we need. And those are opposites. And you see these a lot, and you think about it just for a moment, you see these a lot in familiar places. So thinking about, well, I see blue and orange somewhere. Maybe U of I, maybe the Bears. You see opposites like yellow and violet, maybe with the Vikings. So you think about other teams in sports, and people can connect to those particular color relationships or those combinations of colors. So again, back to this particular series that I found, got to be honest that they spelled this wrong, but still used complementary colors here. This opposites of color. They complete. They don't tell each other how well and how nice they look. They're not complements. They're complementary colors. Okay. But this is used a lot in design. And again, orange and blue are common ones. We see them. They are opposites. They are familiar colors that work together. This is kind of a red and a green. And if you think about that, there's another set of colors that work together. Just opposites, right? Works together. Say another one, triadic colors are equidistant, equally spaced. Now the problem with the particular color wheel that I've given you is to divide 20 divided by 3, and that's kind of hard. But 3 hues that are spaced evenly on the color wheel. And the most common way that we can use these, if you look at the right here, is that we have red, yellow, and blue, or cyan, magenta, and yellow. So our primary colors are triadic, and then right below that, if you look at green, orange, and violet, those are our secondary colors. Those are also equidistant. They are complementary, or triadic, sorry, they're triadic colors. Right? So you can think about how we divide the color wheel that way. So the problem is with this particular color wheel, like I said, is dividing 20 divided by 3. That's kind of hard, but we're looking at things that are equidistant. And this is used commonly. Sometimes if you look at the sample on the right, there's a 4th color in there. That's beside the point. But we use these colors a lot, the primary and the secondary colors. This can be something that we recognize. It can be something that we are working with a particular audience or for a particular audience. Kids love or recognize primary colors. They recognize those triadic colors, familiar. We can use this a lot in secondary colors as well. We have a blue, an orange, and a green, or more of a violet, I guess, sorry. And thinking about how we relate those. Now here's a challenge. We have a car that's green. We have a background that is orange. And if we're looking at triadic colors, what should our 3rd color be? Well, most likely it'll be a little bit of a violet or a purple. Challenge is, where is that in this particular photograph? But it can work in photography, and it might be, in this case, down towards the shadow underneath the front, or in front of the front tires. It might be in the sky in the background. Depending on how you interpret it, you might notice that there's some purple or violet along there. But just a way to think about photography and how we can use that approach. Okay. Now, the next two are a little bit different, a little more complex in this way. Split complementary is on the left, and what that is you take a color and its complement, but instead of using the complement, you take what's on the other side of it, on either side of that complement. So if you took on your sheet, if you took lime and its complement, which is mauve, so 11 and 1, and instead of using mauve, you might use lime plus magenta plus purple. Kind of spreading it out, it gives you a little more variety with your color choices. The other one on the right is looking at square, and square is taking two sets of complementary colors that are equidistant. So there works really well in our series of 20 colors, works well because we're equidistant there, so every 5. So even if we took poster red, yellow, teal, and purple, those complementary colors would work together as a set. So again, on the left, we have split complementary. We take a color and its complement, but instead of using the color's complement, we use what's on either side. It gives us a little more diversity in our color choices, more variety. Then we have on the right the square color mode again, thinking about it that way, two sets of complements that are equidistant. Okay, we see this a lot. We see this familiar combination of colors. We see this in anything from identities to signs to screens to wherever. We see these. More color can give us more interest, more flexibility, more approaches. And this could be something if you're designing a space inside your house, if you're designing something related to an animation, or if you're just illustrating. You start to think about, well, what color would work with this color, or what color would work with that color, or colors. So it's helpful to be thinking about whatever environment you're working in, how you can pay attention to what your colors are.